we switch up to team and kind of personality traits and how to build the right team, because this is probably where almost all business owners, particularly founders starting out, fuck this up massively.
It's the biggest issue. Once you've got your strategy in place and you've got your customers and sales and your operations side, nearly like most of your problems end up being people.
Yeah, people and who you start with, and then how you end up filtering out the generalists, the specialists, and the org chart you need to manage that, reporting and stuff like that. So we're going to try and distill the best we can here. Starting from first principles, the first thing you got to do is look at yourself and what your own personality traits are like, where your strengths and weaknesses are. And there's all kinds of personality strength things you can do online, like Clifton Strengths and many others, and that can help you diagnose who are you and who do you need to support you. And as you grow a team, then you start to get to more of the business theory and human psychology, and then looking at your particular business scenario and what types of people you need where and when. So just starting with personalities, all three of us here have done Clifton Strengths and various other things as well. Where do you start out, D, in terms of what you need, being the special autistic lover that you are? What do you need to support you,
Well, I did
other than a carer?
Clifton Strengths, and I think I sent it into the chat. And Clifton Strengths is quite good. So it basically has 34 traits, and it identifies your strengths and what you need to work on. My top 5 strengths apparently are achiever, futuristic, focus, activator, and command, and they all sit really within the strategic thinking, influencing, and executing theme. My weaknesses, pretty much. So I don't know if you can't see this because it's on there, but we got on there. All of my strengths sit between the because there's 4 pillars, sit in the strategic thinking, the executing, and the influencing brackets. Unfortunately for me and for everybody who works with me, all of my weaknesses sit mainly in the blue, which is relationship. And it's because and all of my personality tests basically say this, and it's not to be used as an excuse. This is just genuinely the type of person I am. I have a very low like empathy level, and I'm just not that patient or nurturing. And because I'm just
Where is
so
your empathy?
pardon.
Where's empathy on your numbers?
Well, my worst performing one, so my 34th, is like developer, people developer. 33 is harmony, 32 is positivity, 31 is include, and 29 is empathy. So it's
So
quite,
mine's 34. My empathy's 34,
yeah.
which
So
I
you are
it confused me.
you are a sociopath.
Yeah, that's what my missus told me when she saw it. She was like, "You see?" And I was like, "No, it's just a test, babes."
Ryan is a sociopath, so I'm better than Ryan, so that's good. Um, but what about your strengths, Ryan? Are they all in that bracket as well? Do you have any blue in your strengths?
Yeah, so all of mine is to do with strategy. So I did the diagnosis with that, with one of the business leader people who kind of go through. They're like Clifton Strength experts, aren't they? And they go run it through with you and stuff. And she said mine, everything to do with mine is about strategy. So my top number 1 is strategic, number 2 is achiever, number 3 is command, number 4 is arranger, and number 5 is self assurance. So it's all to do with like leadership and strategic thinking.
Can I just share the comparison between mine and Dorian's wealth dynamics? Because I think it is interesting. If you can see on the screen, so Dorian's on the left and I'm on the right. I've got a slightly skinnier waist, but we're basically the same.
Yeah, you look like a diamond.
But I actually redid this test 5 years later, and it did come out marginally different for me. So that this is the original one that I did, and then this is the latest one. Let me quickly just show you up. I think I've moved into much more of a, look, I've moved away
Whoa.
from supporter significantly
Yeah, you have, yeah.
to a
Whoa!
mechanic, a deliverer, probably a little bit more counting my eggs with the Lord.
Right,
Right.
you've gone right into the introspective, detailed side, Jack.
Yeah. What I find really interesting is my wife is really high on supporter,
Yeah.
but I'm the opposite. I hate supporting. Um,
I hate helping people. Fuck people.
but it's interesting because the original test is extremely similar.
But do you know why I think that is though, Jack? Because back when you did that, because I remember you from back in those days as well. Both of us were similar. We were out networking so much, building relationships, constantly out there. So you kind of build that more of that like that tempo energy and a bit more on the right, a little bit more because you have to you have to be around more people. But then once you've built a business and you don't have to network for the sake of networking anymore, it wasn't the natural thing. Your natural thing is building businesses and finding ways to be more efficient and make more money and do more deals and stuff. And so you've gone more to the left, which is as you've become more successful. We have to force ourselves back then as well to get out there, really, didn't you? And to build
Yeah.
networks and be speaking in the front of stages and all that sort of stuff when you know it's just hard.
Yeah, I mean, what this table is showing for the viewers out there is typically most founder entrepreneurs are dynamo. That's typically they're like front leaders, almost a pain to manage, but they're the northern star of the team. Blazes are typically good salespeople, so they're good at getting out, winning business development, or growing a team. Tempo are like the deliverers. They just sort of do the day to day. They churn through the deals. And then the steals almost don't want to engage with external people. They just also get the job done. It's really good to analyze this. We've actually got both our project managers have done this test. I don't know if you guys have got your teams to do these tests as well. But we're both a creator style mechanic, Dorian. But where I don't agree with this is I love deal making. And neither of my tests have pulled up me as a sort of like trader deal maker. Whereas I actually think that if you spend time with me, you'd probably think I'm more lent towards that than probably anything else.
I think though, Jack, that's because the word deal maker is misleading in that graph. I think you are a deal maker, but you're a deal maker through dynamo energy. You're very creative. Those deal makers, they are just constant arbitrage, and I know you do that, but that's just boots on the ground. Just finding opportunities just through people and understanding. Just trading really, but it's not creative trading. It's not where a lot of the stuff you've done is creating an opportunity out of nothing.
That is one of the key things about these kind of tests. So just a caveat for anyone listening who might be like, why are you doing these tests and you could lie on the tests and stuff? No, like these tests you do are very, very hard to game unless you've done it multiple times, then you could maybe game it.
Gaming it.
But if you just do it for the first time and you're just honest with it, but the way it works, like Clifton Strengths, is it'll ask you in one question, like, are you the kind of person that thinks about the war, any global wars and the impacts on the economy? And then on the other end of the spectrum, it will then ask, do you enjoy spending time with your friends? And then it's like a 1 to 5 vote, and you kind of like vote between. But then it'll ask you in another question, do you think about war? Do you think about business progress? And like, it's just really random. You couldn't game it. So it really does tell you how you would quickly think about things because you've got a timer as well. So you've got to instinctively answer, and then it spits out, what is seems quite an accurate summary of who you are, but with a bit of caveat, it's not a perfect system because you can read between the lines on these things. And it might be that, for example, Jack saying he's not a deal maker is nonsense, but because he's creative, that's where those strengths are leaning in for his deal making. So there's, just for anyone listening who's thinking like, why are you doing these tests if they're wrong? It's not that they're very good at giving you a bit of like an introspective mirror, but you got to read it with a bit of nuance.
There's three things I did with the test. One is that I shared it with my team and especially new starters who report directly to me with a condensed summary. And with AI now, it's easy to do a condensed summary. You can just drop the report in and say, prompt it. I've got new starters reporting directly to me. This is their role. Can you explain to them my strengths and weaknesses and how best to work with me? And that was really good because if somebody needs constant reassurance and they need me to listen to their problems constantly, they'll find out very quickly that will never happen. And again, this is no excuse for bad behavior. It's just that everybody is built differently. I live in the future like you guys, and I don't pick up that somebody needs for me to sit down and explain to them that the work they did which is expected, was a very good piece of work, and I rated 8.5 out of 10. And this is how I'm just not like that. So I used it to gauge expectations from other team people, and for them to understand. I've used it to find out where, again, my weaknesses are, and if the person I'm looking to recruit is compatible working with me and what they like, and all that sort of stuff. And then I've also used it really just as in terms of looking at myself to think, what should I be doubling down on? So where are my strengths, and what tasks am I doing in the business, and do they align with those strengths? Does that make sense?
I think it'd be quite interesting, to get to like have all your team do Clifton strengths and then like synthesize that into an AI model to see like where your different buckets of teams and decision makers are lacking in certain attributes. That could be like just something you can do nowadays with AI. I might give that a little go. But let's now talk about the application of this. So I'd use me as my example, and you guys do the same. So I'm strategic thinker, want high impact, and want to dig into the weeds of things to understand how they work and hand it off. Which means I'm not someone that likes day to day at all. I really don't like doing things beyond the point of starting them and creating them. So I need people like my brother or my dad who are very willing to like get into those nitty gritty things and keep going with like kind of picking up the pieces but making sure that the business underneath is clean and tidy. That's not something that my brain likes doing. And I think that's quite normal for a lot of business owners. But it's understanding that from the outset. So me, my dad, and my brother starting the business, it meant there was a good little triad of picking up on each other's strengths and weaknesses. What would you say for you guys? Obviously, Jack, you work with your brother and with Ben. How would you say that dynamic works between you three?
Yeah, so Ben actually did. We've all done the Wealth Dynamics test, which is the one I just shared on the screen. My brother's actually more of a Lord profile, so a sort of slow and steady mover, rather than me being like similar to you, Ryan. I go and create a mess, but it's obviously driven mess. And in theory, it's obviously a good thing for the business. But yeah, I too. Well, I wouldn't be able to deal with tenants, so my brother's great at doing that because I actually am semi-banned from going and speaking to tenants because I just say things as they are, um, and that's not great. Ben coincidentally basically had the same profile as me when we did the assessment, but Ben's one thing I think that Wealth Dynamic massively underestimates is professional experience. So it kind of takes your character into consideration, but it doesn't necessarily pull your professional development experience within it. And what I mean by that is, even though Ben and I scored basically the same profile, he had so much more experience of the technical side of delivering projects, like development projects. So I always think, and I've said this before, I can't even remember if it was on this pod or the XP one, but I think that there's twofold. There's your natural characteristics and there's your learned characteristics. When you start off in the wide world, you're leaning more off your natural characteristics. And if you're allowed an environment to let those flourish, you then naturally fall in suit with what you're better at, or what you're more comfortable at. You always see people that are happy in work or not happy in work if they're following their natural sort of characteristics. I also believe you can have learned characteristics, so you can get better at something through practice and learning. And that means that it may be against the grain slightly of their profile, but you can build up a natural experience of it. And that's exactly what Ben did. Ben worked at structural engineering companies, architectural practice, set up his own architecture practice, worked at the Berkeley Group. So even though he's similar to me, where I get bored quite quickly on the delivery, he's technically given the experience and exposure on delivering stuff like a project in detail. So he's much better at me than just following it month to month, delivering blah, blah. So I would say that my brother's business, in Central Suites, and then Ben in XP is similar to your dad and brother in your business, right? They're like the deliverers, the day-to-day deliverers. But then weirdly, I pick up typically the responsibility of like team management day to day. I don't know why. just because I, like to mediate, keep peace, let people do what they want to do, help them strive.
You're a very personable character as well. Like, I've met your brother and Ben. Not that they're not personable, but you're uber personable, right? Like, you're very like jokey and witty and want to like chat with people and stuff. And I imagine that's obviously great attributes for team leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
So well done, mate. Well done, you, Mr. Charismatic. What about you, D? Because you've obviously don't have business partners, but you must have some key team leaders who are covering your back.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to figure out. So, but my Clifton strengths. But if I put it back onto that, to summarize it, AI basically says that I'm, forward thinking, high drive, move fast. I simultaneously set the strategic vision and then put the initial action in place, set the direction, create urgency, and then expect results. My risk is that I'm very intense and demanding, and I can leave people behind and and as we've already discussed, I don't have that kind of high level of empathy for somebody. So I asked, like, who's the best person to work with, because I've never really had a business partner. I've struggled with business partnerships, and it's mainly for those reasons I've just said. And really it's because of misalignment. My ambition level is that, and what I would always say to people going into business partnership is that you should really be aligned about where you want to get to. And I've never really had somebody I've worked with that matches me on terms of ambition level. And that's not that I'm better than them at all. It's just because our ambition level is so different. It influences your day to day. It influences your risk taking. It influences your decision making. Where somebody would want to take dividends out, I want to plow everything back in for 10 years and not see anything and live frugal. It fundamentally changes things. So that's one reason why. And then the second reason is that just the work ethic. I work so much and I self-develop so much just because I love what I do. When the other person's not matching it, it frustrates me, and I'm moving so fast that I want them to keep up, and they don't want to. So I found that I've found that I work better at the top, kind of by myself, but I have people around me, and I'm in constant clubs like Ground Up, Goldman Sachs, Business Leader, Cranfield. I've just applied for YPO, Young Presidents Organization. I've just applied for Soho House in London. There's so many places I want to be around, just so I can get the people and information I need. But really, I'm by myself, effectively. So I asked AI, who's the best person that I need really with my personality, and who would work best with me? And it's come back and said that they've put lots of different things. I said, if you can nail it down to one, what would it be? And it says the integrator / chief of staff type, somebody who sits between me and the business, translating the vision and execution, but protects the team from your pace. So their strengths would be harmony, discipline, arranging, and all that sort of stuff. And probably what that's saying is that in an ideal world, I'm best out of the business and letting somebody run the business and me
Do you
getting the next thing.
do you find that you often change though?
Situational
As
leadership,
in,
yeah.
do you ever go back in and be like, I came up with this idea a week ago, but scrap that now. I want to do this instead.
Yeah, short answer is yeah, definitely. But I don't. I try not to make massive game changing. So I don't come in tomorrow and say, right, guys, we're going to do private sales now. We're scrapping off social housing. I never do anything like that that's material. But I will come in and say, okay, guys, we're trying this new AI software, and I want to try to roll it out to the business. And as soon as I start seeing cracks or we just don't have the bandwidth, I'll come back in, and before it gets to them, I'll say, actually, guys, we're going to scrap that because I can see we're not ready for it. So let's move on.
Dorian, I think the $1 million question for our listeners of all this, and I think you've probably done the most. What one single personality test framework would you recommend doing first, or that you found most useful? Because there's obviously tons out there. Like Myers-Briggs is like one of the longest standing ones. I did Wealth Dynamics, which I kind of feel is a sales funnel for Roger Hamilton's business training. So there's an element of it being actually a sales tool. What would you say is the best?
I've done loads, and I've done Myers-Briggs as well. And for anybody interested, I came out as an ENTP on Myers-Briggs. And but in terms of I actually really like Clifton Strengths. I actually genuinely rate it and think that I would say start with that one.
And that's for you personally rather than the team.
No, personally and the team.